Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monday night's Fools Rush In. If it's anything like where I am right now, it's very cold outside, so I hope you've wrapped up warm and you settled down to enjoy what I'm sure is going to be a highly emotive episode. Needless to say, the football, whether that be Swindon or England, didn't bring any festive joy into my household, at least. So it's certainly going to be interesting and something of a therapy session, this one. We've got a good panel tonight and a special guest joining us as well. But before we say hello to them, let's roll the titles.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
And let's start by saying hello to a man who's been missing for a couple of episodes, and it feels like an absolute age since we've seen him. Hello and good evening, Nick. How are you, pal?
Yeah, hi, Fifey. Yeah, glad to be back. This man flu, mate, it's a killer, I tell you. It's an absolute killer. So I had, a few days out of action, but I'm back and raring to go.
Well, we are delighted to have you back. And I know the illness, the very severe illness that is man flu, kept you away on Saturday, but you were able just about to watch the England game. And I know you've caught up on many of the other talking points. So you're going to have lots of opinions to share tonight.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Speaking of someone else who might be suffering, but not with man flu, let's see if he's recovered from the weekend. Good evening, Rich.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm very well, but the question is, how are you?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. It was Saturday afternoon was a bit depressing. Saturday evening, I'd like to say I told you so, but it's the way it goes, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about that later. So,
Well, you could tell us you told us so in around about an hour or so's time, mate. That's for sure.
Good stuff.
There is a third panelist, but I do believe he may still be on the phone. So instead, let's say hello and good evening to our special guest, making his Fools Rush In debut, former goalkeeping coach Steve Hale. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening. How are you?
Very, very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Cold in Coventry, but wrapped up warm in my room at the moment.
Absolutely. And can I say again, thank you very much for taking time out your evening to spend with us tonight. I know you were at the game on Saturday, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of insight on what you saw. That is for sure. Before we get into that, though, let's see if he's available. He's put his headphones back on. There is a guest here, which means Kieran must be here as well. How are you, pal?
Always, yeah, not too bad, mate. Thank you.
Only show up when the big guests are on, don't you, mate?
Oh, obviously, mate. Obviously, if there's a guest there, I'm there.
Absolutely. You love the limelight, that's for sure. Let's get straight into it then, and a draw at the weekend. After a run of performances and results that's not amused the fan base, shall we say. At least it wasn't a defeat in the lack of Ben Rich. That's possibly the best positive I can come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to be quite honest with you, from a draws perspective, I think the fact that Wimbledon have been on a very good run, and a team that didn't really threaten us that much in front of goal, really. I think we found out earlier that Bryn had one save to say, and that was from a Davison shot or a Davison header or something like that. And I just think I kind of feel as if it was a bit of a missed opportunity for us, but we just stuck to our normal game plan, which was, well, to be honest with you, I don't really know what our game plan is, but it's just to keep possession for 90 minutes, 68% possession, and, not really do an awful lot with it. Again, shots on target for us was very, very minimal. Shots in general for us were very, very minimal, actually. And, I just... I get that we had a lot of injuries, and I think that's going to show, especially in the next couple of weeks or so, especially leading up to Christmas and the New Year. I think it's just one of those things that Lindsay, it's one of the challenges that Lindsay's going to have now, and it's one of the challenges he's going to have to try and get around. I do feel as if that Johnny Williams coming back into this team as well was obviously a massive boost. He obviously came in as captain as well on Saturday, which is a role that he hasn't actually had at Swindon before, or not very often anyway. And I think I do think that was a massive boost for us. But how do we sort of interpret and get back to our sort of winning ways, especially because we were all complaining that Johnny was one of the players that we massively missed in the games where he was actually at the World Cup.
Yeah.
But now, since then, we've obviously had quite a few injuries, and obviously we're having to bring in some players that haven't had as much regular game time either. So how does Scott Lindsay sort of figure this out now, and how does he try and get the best out of the team that he's got? And how does he get back to those results? And I think, obviously, in the next couple of weeks is something, and I don't feel as if we've seen that yet. I don't feel as if we've seen that transition. I mean, you compare to where we were 5 weeks ago when we beat Mansfield 5-2 at their place to the last 3 games, last 4 games even. And it just seems like we've lost a spark. And we need to get back to that ASAP before it's too late. We're lucky we're still 8th in the table. So it's going to be a challenge. It is a challenging time for Lindsay. I don't think it's something that the fans should be saying, get out, get out, get out. I think he needs time to figure this out and try and get us a run of games. And obviously, if he can't, then questions will have to be asked. But I'm not a fan of this Lindsay out yet. I think it's way too early. We've just seen what's happened with Bengana, and it's not the answer. It's not the answer yet.
And before we hand it over, I've just got going along the ticker on the bottom. I mean, I've seen it. I don't think it was, but your thoughts on the penalty claim?
From the angles I've seen of it, I know I didn't get to see like any close-up versions from it, but for me, it seemed like it was a Stonewall penalty, to be quite honest with you. But like I say, I haven't really seen any of the ones that are more close up. So again, like I said, but I did see a replay of it this morning, and to me, it looked like it was a Stonewall penalty. But again, he may have dived. I'm not too sure if there was a clip in there or anything like that. But usually, the way that Hepburn Murphy actually went down, usually you see them given. So it does put question marks on that, but I'd like to see another angle of it, more close-up version to see if he was actually clipped.
Maybe Saturday just wasn't a good day for referees in general. Steve, you were there as well, in a purely spectator capacity. One of the games where you weren't doing co-coms or anything. What did you make of what you saw?
Yeah, I was disappointed, if I'm honest. It was a cold day. It was quite a dull game, being brutally honest, which was disappointing. Literally, I think Zanev made one good save from shade and Bryn made one good save, and that was it pretty much, which in 90 minutes, obviously, as a spectator, you're a little bit disappointed about. I think I've sort of seen games sporadically. So I did a few games earlier on in the season with the radio commentary. Then I think I watched, I think it was Crew on iFollow. I didn't get back in time from Coventry to be able to get to the game, so I literally just got home and watched it on iFollow. And obviously I watched the game Saturday. And I think the more recent games of the ones I've seen, I felt that Swindon have got into some good areas in wide areas and got balls in the box, which perhaps wasn't happening as much earlier on in the season. So they did seem to be getting into good areas, particularly against Crew. There was, I think there was about 30 odd crosses went in the box, but I don't think the makeup of the side is right, and I think a lot of that comes down to the recruitment. I've said on radio before that the team misses a focal point. There's not a great deal of height within the side, so when the balls are going in the box, I think because you haven't got a lot of height in there, I think you've actually got to almost get work for sort of cutback crosses and get runners across the near post and things like that. And there was a few. I was actually sat in this side of the pitch, the dugout side of the pitch. I've forgotten the name of the stand. That's bad. But I was sat that side in line with the penalty area. So in the first half, I saw quite a lot of opportunities for Romeo Hutton to get the ball in the box, which he did. But you haven't got a great deal of height. You had Johnny Williams coming at the back post, Jacob Waitling through the middle. So those type of deliveries weren't really going to provide a great deal of success. So if you haven't got that target man in there, then you've got to look at the way you're going to cross the ball. If you're going to get into those areas, you obviously need to try and get more runs, more movement within the box and try and get more cutback crosses. But I would like to see a more of a focal point in the side. I think last season with Simpson, at the start of the season, I wasn't quite sure about him, but he certainly grew on me. And I think with being a young player, as he started to get into it and gain more experience, he got stronger and stronger. And it was unfortunate, obviously, in the end when he went back. And I think they Swindon need a focal point, a target man within there. We're talking about League Two football. I think you do need a target man in there. So whether that'll happen in the transfer window, very difficult to say.
It's all about the physicality as well, Steve, especially, and you really need that in League Two as well. I mean, it's not a league where you want to be pushed over, and especially when you've got an experience I say inexperience. He has actually done pretty well this season already, considering it's his first league season of football, Jacob Waitling. But there's nothing on the guy. And the same with Luke Jeffcott as well. They're two very good football players, but you need that physicality and presence. And even when we lost Simpson last season, we brought Josh Davison in. You see the strength that he had on Saturday for Wimbledon. Although he didn't use it an awful lot, you could see when he played for us last season that he had that sort of presence about him. So, yeah, I feel as if that we need that in January. That is something that I think we do need, and a winger as well.
I think the hard part in January there will be are the right players available? It's all right knowing what you need, but you've still got to be able to get that type of player in, and that could come back to availability. It could come down to finances, because I still don't think that the club are in a situation where they can pay big wages. They're still paying off debts. They're still trying to make themselves sustainable. So it is difficult if you get what you pay for at the end of the day. So if you haven't got the money to pay for the real quality, it is difficult. And so I don't know who's going to be available in January. And then if it is the right quality, will actually Swindon be able to afford to pay their wages, basically. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting transfer window, I think, January.
On that note specifically, and before I hand it over to Kieran, and I'd sound like a broken record, but I have to ask the question, Rich. If you're looking for physicality up front, why is Adeloy not getting more of a go?
That's a good question. I mean, he played in the development game on Tuesday
And scored.
and scored. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we're lacking at the moment is goals. I mean, I'm not saying Adloy is the answer. Definitely not. Far from it. But the fact that I personally haven't seen an awful lot of him. I know people say that, oh, he's had enough game time now and stuff like that. How many games has he actually started? He's had about 20 minutes.
Two starts, I think.
Is that, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, out of how many games we've already played this season, 20, 22 maybe? And he's only had 2 starts. I mean, there's either something in training that he's not doing right, whether or not it's a lack of training, or whether or not, I mean, he has been injured as well.
He has.
But whether or not that's the reason as to why he's not starting, or whether or not maybe it's Lindsay being stubborn or something like that. Maybe he's got too much belief in Wakeling and Jeffcott, but there's something there that we are lacking up top, and stuff like that. And I definitely think Adloy deserves his chance. But yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it's frustrating to see that he's not being given a chance.
Kieran, you were there, you watching on Saturday as well. You've heard what Steve and Rich had to say. Do you agree pretty much with the assessment thus far?
We could have been out there all day on Saturday. I don't think we'd have scored a goal. Wimbledon looked like the side that were going to score, which we can have all the possession if you're not going to do anything with it. Which we got into good areas. We were crossing balls into the box into no one. It just lacked any sort of spark. And I think we could generally have been there all night Saturday. We wouldn't have scored. They just never felt like we were going to score. I think you got a question. If you got a striker on the bench that scored in a development game in midweek that needs game time as well, you draw a 0-0. You've had 1-2 shots on target in the last 180 minutes. Why aren't you bringing him on? What's he doing? What's he doing in training to not get on that pitch on Saturday? Like there's obviously has got to be something, but you got to be bringing him on there. But I did say I liked the look of Morgan Roberts. He's pacey. He's going to be. I think bringing on more centrally probably isn't his best position. I think he's going to be suited more to being a winger. And I think he summed up the game though when he had that one of his first shots. He's tried to cross it across goal. Why on earth you've tried to cross it across goal from that position? It was better to shoot and get not being greedy and stuff. But sometimes this is what's lacking. We seem to not be wanting to shoot, and everyone's not to be greedy. And I don't know. You're not going to win many games of football by doing that. Sometimes you've got to buy a ticket to the raffle and have those shots. Sometimes you haven't, but. Test that keeper, because I don't think the Wimbledon keeper could have sat there having a fag all night. Like he would have literally had the easiest 90 minutes he's probably would have had all season. It just wasn't. It was an average performance. I think we were lucky to get away with the point. To be honest, I think Wimbledon sort of getting into that last 20 had a good little burst and looked like the side that were going to score more. I think if we'd ran out of 3 points of that, Wimbledon would have felt absolutely robbed. If that penalty was given. Wimbledon would have gone away from that game feeling absolutely robbed that they didn't get at least a point from it. But I think we would be the happier side of the point. I think they'll be kicking themselves that they couldn't find a way past us, which is credit to Sol Bryn. I think he's been quality so far this season, which says a lot about the way we've been. I think he's going to end up being our player of the season, which is great for him, but also sums up the sort of where we're going this season. Something needs to change, whether that is players, more personnel in, or whether that's something changing the coaching staff, I don't know. But it's been a sort of rapid decline. If we say that Mansfield performance where you thought this season's going to kickstart, that was the squad coming together. That was our statement performance, and then after that it's been fucking shit. Like it has been awful. And okay, the FA Cup losing 4-0 to Stockport, I don't know how as well. 2 months ago we drew with them 1-1. Now we're losing 4 sides like that. I know they've had a bit of resurgence, but they made God knows how many changes for their league game in midweek. It's just been poor since. And he's critical as manager if he can get past a sticky patch. But I think we'll see where we are end of December, going into January. Given at this point, because I don't think we've got much to lose now. I think we're sort of this league's so tight. We just got to see where we get after the Christmas period for him.
Well, it looks
You know
like
what?
Kieran's going to be the one suffering with a case of whether we go with hashtag Woody's Wi-Fi or
Woody's
hashtag
Wi-Fi.
Bendwith tonight. That's for sure.
Fifey, just quickly there, I just saw you.
There's
pop a
always
comment
one.
up on it. I just saw you pop a comment up about Fraser Blake
AJ Blake Tracy.
AJ Blake Tracy. Do you know why he was our player of the match on Saturday? Because he was playing left back, which is his natural position, and that is his best position. Why we've been playing him at left centre back the last 3 or 4 games, I will never know. Left back was his position. He owned that position on Saturday. And that is the reason we love Fraser Blake Tracy, is because he plays that position so well. And absolutely. And this is why, because we're worried that we're going to lose him in January, because he's obviously on loan to us and everything like that. And we've both said ourselves, Fifey, that he is a player that we need to be keeping and potentially bring him back in on a permanent deal. Yep. He's a quality player, and he was absolutely outstanding again on Saturday. So if he continues to play in that natural left back position, I'm not saying that obviously he's a defender, so I'm not saying that the results are going to change, but we're going to be a lot more confident at the back. And obviously we have been leaking goals of late, so we need to be playing players in their positions, and that's another thing that we've really struggled with this season, is Lindsay putting the players in the right positions rather than changing formations.
Nick, I may be clutching at straws a little bit here, but I'm trying, after the weekend we've had, I would like to find some positives where they can be found. Hepburn Murphy coming back, still within touching distance of the playoffs despite our bad form. Is this the sort of crumbs of comfort we can take and just hope that we're coming out the other side?
Yes, because we do need some crumbs, because they're very sparse at the moment. From the reports I've read in podcasts I've listened to, it seemed the performance was an improvement, albeit slight. The game probably went as most people or most of us would have predicted before the game. Usual thing, loads of possession in the first 2/3, nothing up front, didn't create anything, players afraid to shoot. From the outside, to me, it looks like we're far too nice. And you get all the pictures of the players, best mates, and doing X, Y, Z, and everything's hunky-dory. We need somebody in there to start stirring them up and start giving some, serious bollockings out there, because it just seems that there's nobody driving the team. Going back a few years, you had Gordon Greer, who drove it from reports on the training ground. Everything was 100%. He controlled the dressing room. They did what he said. He had that drive. He was their captain. Now, McDonald's back fit. He was on the bench. Surprised he didn't start. So, is he the man to do that? With his experience and the number of games under his belt, he should be. And if we can get that drive back. The other thing, we've missed McCurdy dreadfully. His drive, his passion, his shithousing, is getting the fans going, is upsetting opposition players, his goal scoring. That's what we've missed so badly. So yeah, and there are positives, like you said, Fifey. Ridiculous. We're 2 points off of fourth, which on the run we're on, we should be down below halfway. Yeah, we're only 2 points off of fourth position. All right, there's teams got games in hand. We're 2 points off of Mansfield with the same games. We've got Northampton who are third, Barrow who are fourth this month. So, either we're going to bomb and then we are going to drop down to halfway, or if we can pick up points in those 2 games, and they are going to be tough games, we know that, providing they're on, whether Barrow's going to be on, depending what the weather does, is, that's a different matter. And we could be back up into the playoffs easily. So, yeah, there's points there for the taking. It's just we need that drive. In Lindsay said the team is struggling. There's sort of little or no confidence. Well, isn't that his job to get his confidence back up? So, although someone did make a good point and if you think about it, he said, was it better to get a boring 0-0 draw or lose an exciting game 3-2. That 1 point could be crucial at the end of the season. And we all know what the odd point did last season on putting you either in the top 3 or in the playoffs. So, considering we've been on such a bad run, we have got a few players coming back from injury. So there are options. I was glad to see he went to back 4. Probably his hand was forced. Whether he wanted to do it or not is a different matter. But I think we play much better as a back 4. So if we can push on from that, say from the info, it was a slightly improved performance, certainly first half. And listening to our friends, Low Strangers, Dan Hunt, he gave a good summary of it. And he said it looked like the weather in the pitch did affect the second half for both teams. It wasn't as easy to play on. Players were having to take that extra touch to get it under control on both sides, apart from Johnny Williams, who was, showed his class and his skill level. So, yeah, there is a bit of hope going forward. But again, we're in another crucial month, and every month's going to be crucial now. So it's what we do in these next 3 games this month that's going to determine a long way to what happens in January. And whether we change things, whether we get more players in, and like Steve said, that centre forward ain't out there. If he would have been snapped up already. So the type of player we need, unless we're going to pay a lot of money, which we're not, just isn't there. So, yeah, maybe put your man in, Fifey, and see what happens. Give him a run.
Steve, this is going to be a bit wordy, so please bear with me. But there's a couple of likenesses, and I'm not comparing the two. But there's a couple of statements that have been made and cliches that fans like to throw out that are very similar listening to Swindon fans and those who were watching England in the World Cup. And Nick's thrown a couple of them in there. Swindon are too nice. We hear that England under Southgate are too nice. Players are afraid to shoot, the same as England players are afraid when they come up against other elite opposition. And then we have this comment come up as well, which I'll flash up on the screen from Dan. Is it a case of players seeing Lindsay as a player's coach and a mate rather than a head coach and a manager? Fans like to say these things when it's not going right. Are these things true? Like, are Swindon too nice? Is too nice a thing on the football pitch?
To be fair to Nick, I think I was asked on the radio one day about recruitment and that in the summer, and I think I said another goalkeeper to compete with Sol Bryn, a centre forward as we've already spoken about, and I actually said a ball-winning midfielder, someone who is going to break up attacks, who's going to drive the team forward, is going to show energy. So I totally get what Nick's saying. He mentioned Gordon Greer. I can still remember Gordon Greer and Dave Lucas having a big fight on the training pitch one day. That was quite interesting. But yeah, I totally get what Nick's saying. Swindon is a technical-based football inside, but again, I am talking about League Two football, and you need to be able to do both sides to the game.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes a player in the middle of the park winning a big tackle stirs up not just the crowd, but it also stirs up your team and gets that adrenaline going. So I totally get what Nick's saying, and yeah, I think it would be good to see that type of player within the middle of the park. I think obviously at the weekend there was a few similar types of players in terms of physical capabilities playing out there. So it is a little bit samey. And as I say, some days on a beautiful sunny day, that might be all well and good, but in the muck and when the bullets are flying at Barrow away next week on a terrible pitch in freezing conditions, sometimes you do need a different type of player. So I totally get that. In terms of afraid to shoot, I'm not sure about that, if I'm honest with you. I'm not sure players would be afraid to shoot. I think sometimes the team is looking for the perfect finish. The possession-based style of play, and I went through this obviously at Swindon, then Forest Green, and obviously Swindon are still trying to play that way now. The whole ethos behind it, rightly or wrongly, is to dominate possession, is to try and create opportunities, is if you've got possession of the ball, obviously you're not defending as such. And the ethos is to keep possession, tire teams out, and work the ball into good areas of the pitch, and then create your opportunities. When people talk about playing forwards and direct and everything, I get that to a degree, but I also don't get it in a degree, in that I've seen it firsthand where goalkeepers I've worked with have been asked to sort of launch the ball forwards, and within 16 seconds they're actually facing a save because they've gone long. It's not been one up front. It's been headed straight back down your throats, and all of a sudden you're actually defending again. And even down to academy football I'm working in at the moment, I've seen it, and I've had conversations with other goalkeepers about it. So it might look more positive going long, more than just playing at the back and building the ball at the pitch, but that doesn't guarantee that you're going to create chances just if you go long. As I've already alluded to, with the type of players Swindon have got, if Solbrand was just start smashing it in the channel, I don't think Swindon would gain a great deal of success playing that way.
Well, we've seen that doesn't work as well, haven't we? Let's be honest.
You haven't got the players to win the ball, to flick the ball on, to hold the ball up. So if you go long into Jacob Wakelin and Johnny Williams and players like that, they're going to struggle to play. So with the players you've got, I don't actually think it is the right method. I don't think Scott's got it quite right at the moment. I think some of the build-up play has been okay. As I say, I think there was quite a few opportunities, Crew, and then even on Saturday where the ball was into wide areas, particularly Romeo Hutton. I thought he was decent. But the final ball in the box, the final pass, the final cross, just obviously wasn't right. So that final bit is not right at the moment. And obviously that comes down to maybe a little bit of the style of play, but it also comes down to recruitment as well, getting the right players in there. So it will be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Just picking up, sorry, Fifey, just picking up on one point you said there, Steve, about the sort of the hard man players. We had Gerald Eiffel on last week, and his comment was he loved nothing more than hitting a centre forward into the hoardings. And I think that's what type of player we're missing. Not like you said, it not only gets the team going, it gets the crowd going as well. And we just don't seem to have that anymore. We don't want a team of those. You don't want 8 or 9 players like that. You want at least one, if not 2.
You don't want to sign Bullock back in the day.
Well, if there's another 8 or 9 technical players around him, yeah. So it's you need. I mean, someone made the comment about Anthony Grant. I mean, that season we won the league, he was the best player in League 2 by a country mile, and he did all that hard, dirty work. But he was a player as well. So we had the best of both worlds from Granty when he was in that team with Wellens. So yeah, we just need that type of player in the side.
Go on, Kieran.
So I was going back to Dan's comment about his second part, saying about Lindsay, the player seeing Lindsay as sort of a player's coach and a mate rather than a player manager. I think that there might be something in that, because Lindsay did say back at the fans forum a couple of months ago, he was the coach last season, and when he's been the coach, that the player he would be the one that puts his arm around the players, looks after the players, be that sort of between the manager and the thing. And I think for some of the players that were there last year, it might be it's hard to see. It's like your normal jobs. If you have a mate that becomes a manager, that becomes difficult for him to manage you, and because you go to his mates' favours, you do find it difficult. Is it in like I've had mates that become managers and jobs, and you find it difficult to see them as the manager rather than the mates. There's something in that, because Lindsay did openly say he was the one that would go around and put the arms around the players, which I think for some of them could be it's a big sort of leap, having that one, the guy last year that put his arm around you, sort of look after you, be a jokey round mate to telling you to fucking do it, get in there and do it, and sort of thing. So there could be something out for some of the players, but obviously we recruited heavily in the summer as well. So I don't think, obviously we recruited so heavily in the summer, there's quite a lot of new players there that would see him just as the gaffer, but maybe for some of them, i.e. Louis Reed or someone like that that's been struggling, there could be things like that in there as well. And then go back to Nick's point as well. I think Ben Gladwin runs that dressing room, not Angus MacDonald, and he should have been our captain. But I think Ben Gladwin's got a bigger say in there. I think Angus MacDonald hopefully those two together could be like the Gordon Greer sort of type, Gordon Greer, Jonathan Douglas types that drive us forward. They need to be the ones, they're two very experienced players. They need to be the ones getting in there, telling these younger lads, but being their mates, but also telling these young lads, push one forward, drive them and get them through games like Jordan Henderson did for England very, very well, many games this tournament, and was arguably one of our player of the tournaments.
The problem I have with Angus MacDonald is that he was brought in to be a ball playing centre half and everything like that, which he completely is not. He whenever he's not. He's an old school fucking
kick it out the fucking park, centre back. He's like a Gordon Greer, and Gordon Greer actually can play the ball. To be
nowhere
fair,
near
Gordon.
He's not a Gordon Greer.
No, I'm not saying he's anywhere near his level. None of these squad are anywhere near League One level, arguably. Barely.
I disagree with that
but,
as well.
But yeah, Angus MacDonald is a big old traditional centre half. Hoof it down the fucking pitch and clatter the fuck out of someone, sort of centre back. Not a ball playing centre back by any stretch of the imagination.
And it's good to have that balance, but I just don't think he fits. Really
Completely off topic.
Don't lie, though.
Completely off topic for a second, but does anyone else get the feeling? I don't know if you can all hear it as clearly as I can, but it's like Kieran's been put in the spare room to do this while there's a mad party going on in his flat. It's just really loud noise of people chatting in the background, and they're just Kieran in this little room. Steve, you mentioned.
Even hear them.
Can you not? Oh, I can hear it. It was so clear.
Yeah, it's coming from somewhere, Kieran.
Yeah.
Steve Brin's been mentioned a few times there. And I just wanted to ask you, not specifically about him, but just about goalkeepers in general and your experience, younger keepers finding their way. What does it take to become that sort of top level, EFL, moving further up the ladder? What does it take to get that far?
I think Sol, one of the biggest strengths he's got is he's got a very good mentality. Doesn't let things phase him. It's very difficult when they come into the Football League, because I had it with Lawrence, obviously, at Swindon, Brad Collins at Forest Green, Dan Everson at Oldham, all sort of young, 20-year-old goalkeepers coming out of 21s football, going into Football League for the first time. And they come in with a lot of adrenaline, and it's almost like a roller coaster ride. They come in with a lot of adrenaline and that buzz of playing week in, week out in front of a crowd and everything. And then after sort of playing Saturday, Tuesday, things can take effect, and that inexperience kicks in, and they'll have a dip in form, and they have to try and get through that and then come out the other side, sort of thing. So it is quite difficult. But I think the thing that's impressed me most about Solbrin, apart from obviously naturally his performances, the saves he's made, is that as a character, he doesn't seem fazed by too much. Now, again, speaking to Mildy, speaking to Scott, I met him briefly. Swindon trained before the Mansfield game. They came and trained at Coventry on the way up. So I met him very briefly then. And he just seems quite a laid-back character. I know from speaking to the staff, when was it the first game of the season, he took some abuse from some Swindon fans. Wasn't fazed by it at all. They checked as he came back in for the warm-up. They sort of spoke to him and said, "Are you all right?" And he was like, "Yeah, what's the problem?" sort of thing. He wasn't fazed by it at all. So for that to happen, like it was his first game for Swindon, and not be bothered by it, not affected by it, and then I think the next game he bounced back and was excellent, I think is a big part of the mindset and the character of a goalkeeper coming through. And I think he's been excellent. All the games I've seen, I think he really has been excellent, and it looks like he's got the makings of a good football league goalkeeper, and he'll go on to bigger and better things, perhaps maybe back at Middlesbrough. But I certainly think he's been one of the signings of the season for Swindon. You would like him to be not as busy, obviously, but the fact he's performing, keeping clean sheets and doing well is fantastic. But yeah, he's got all the makings and the trappings of going on to be a good goalkeeper. But it isn't an easy pathway. And as I say, it's happening a lot now in the modern game, where budgets come into it. In that, Swindon will probably get him either for free wages or a small proportion of his wages, which allows them to then put money into other parts of the team. But it is a gamble, but it's certainly paying off with the Solbrin for this season. But you could have a Matty Kovar and it could go against you. You've had a Solbrin this season, it's going for you. But yeah, so I've been really impressed with Solbrin. I think he's been excellent so far.
Just hearing the name Kovar and Richard's reaction says everything you need.
All flashbacks. Gives you PTSD, that.
Yeah, literally. God.
This might be a slightly more difficult one to answer, but we've had a question sent in for you, Steve, from Mike. Do you think the coaching staff would have benefited from having a slightly more experienced member of the team involved?
What? So like... I'm trying to think of an example. A Lenny Lawrence type character, someone who's been around the game a lot longer, to sort of sit maybe above or by the side of Scott to give advice. Is that? I presume that's what he means.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. It's very difficult. We can all guess about what goes on. Obviously, in terms of experience within that coaching staff, it is not hugely experienced. I mean, they do have experience in the game, but not maybe a Lenny Lawrence type character. I know Scott's also got another chap called Carl Lauerman who does a bit in terms of sitting in the stand and giving his opinions and views. He's quite well respected in the game, but not a Lenny Lawrence type character who's been a manager for a number of years and now is in a director of football type role. Sometimes that can work for you, but sometimes you've got to give people opportunities in the game, and sometimes people who haven't had that experience will have more passion, enthusiasm and drive to try and want and to succeed in the game. And then you might get some that have just been in the game for so many years, they're just happy to sort of vegetate within the game, if that makes sense. So it might help, it might not make that much of a difference.
And I'm sure somebody like Scott Lindsay as well. I'm sure he's got his own mentors as well outside of Swindon town. I'm sure like he's obviously an experienced coach in terms of being an assistant at other places, and obviously academy coaches and everything like that.
One of the things he's found hard this season, and he said this to me, is not the coaching side of it. The biggest problem he's had is the actual amount of media commitments that he's got to do, which almost restrict. He works a lot of hours for the football club, trust me. But what he finds hard is like he is being pulled from pillar to post with he's got to do this interview and he's got to do that interview. And like one day he said, like, when can I actually do my job? When can I look at my next opposition coming up? And so that's the one thing that he's learned more of, I think, this season, because he's at times in clubs he's been at before, even though he's been an assistant manager, he's done a lot of the work. He's done a lot of the coaching. He's done dropping players, talking to players, putting an arm around players, bollocking players. So he's done all those aspects of management, if you like. But probably the biggest part he hasn't had to deal with is confronting the media day in, day out, match previews, after match interviews, everything like that, and the demands that are placed on him for every interview going. And there has been times where he's just wanted to crack on and concentrate on next week's opposition. So that is one part that he has found hard this year, and obviously the more he does it, the more he's getting used to that. But he certainly puts a lot of hours in for the football club.
It's all those additional podcasts he's doing with Gabe Sutton, isn't it?
There is all sorts. There's every media outlet going now, isn't it? It's not just like the BBC. There's just so many media outlets that you end up being dragged into.
Go on, Kieran.
On Steve Presley, that was the comment you pulled up. There's nothing in it for Swindon. He's manager of Brentford Bees, and they got a couple of lads on loan to Wimbledon. So we're just going to kill some rumours there.
That's nice.
Yeah, I just
Steve on the
not just oh fuck. Wow. I dropped a bottle of Coke. Sorry, Stick.
As long as it was only a bottle of Coke and not Coke.
Oh man,
that's our new sponsorship.
Yeah. 5 years.
Obviously, yeah.
Steve, on the coaching side, do you think Scott's spreading himself too thinly with all the things he's having to do? There was an interview with Nick Watkins, and he said they interviewed Gary Speed for the manager's job. And one thing he said that stuck out from what Speed said, he said, during the week, you won't hear me on the training ground. My coaches will coach the players to what I want. On a Saturday, you won't hear my coaches. I will be the one that takes control on a Saturday. So do you think Scott, because obviously he's a reputation as a really good coach, is doing that as much as he was before, and like you said, doing everything else that a manager would do, and he's spread too thinly across what he's trying to achieve?
I'm not too sure about spread too thinly. Obviously, you've got Jamie and Gav there and Mildy, so they've got a coaching team. If obviously when he was the assistant under Ben Garner, he was out on a match day doing pre-match warm-ups, things like that. He doesn't do any of that. If you watch, obviously, Jamie and Gav and that do all the pre-match warm-ups, so Scott must stay inside the change room area and doesn't come out and do the pre-match warm-up. Certainly, when they travelled up to Mansfield and trained at our place, I stayed out and watched the session, and again, didn't do the warm-up part of it, didn't do the set pieces part of it. That was down to Jamie and Gav. but Scott went in and coached the 11v11, the shape work and everything like that. So he concentrated on the middle part of that session, if you like. So he does obviously utilise and trust his coaches, Jamie, Gav, and Mildy.
Okay.
But as I say, when it comes to the media side of it, the media guy is going to come to him. Can you do this interview? Can you do that interview? That will generally tend to be Scott. I've not seen Jamie or Gav do any media interviews. So I think he does utilise his coaching staff. And as I say, they have aspects that they have to concentrate on. I think Gav does a little bit of the defensive work. I think between Mildy and Jamie and Gav, they probably spend a lot of the time on the set plays. I don't think Scott gets too involved in things like that. So I think he does utilise his staff. And I think in the game these days, I think you have to utilise your staff. You've seen a lot of teams will have not just a manager and assistant, there'll be a first team coach and goalkeeping coach and sports scientist and analysts and everything like that. There's all sorts of different staff members now within the game. And I think you have to delegate. And if you're going to employ people to do a job, then give them that chance to do that.
Absolutely. Okay.
Rich, I want to put a question to you, picking up on something that Steve actually spoke about earlier, and it's this one that Dan sent in. Are we too reliant on Hutton's crosses from the wings? Doesn't play to Wakeling's strengths as a forward, as most centre-backs are much taller than him, to which Garth followed up as well. Hutton's crosses without a target man are aimless, looks desperate at times.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of Hutton's crosses, personally, I think Hutton's got the capabilities to drive more further into the box sometimes and just put it on a plate really for Wakeling, and that's what he wants. And there's where most of the Wakeling's goals have come from this season. That just happens really. Balls that have just been laid on a plate for him. I remember the goal that he scored at Doncaster when we played Doncaster away. And Hutton literally just drove the ball into the box, and Wakeling literally just tapped it in. And I feel as if we've sort of drifted more away from that now, and that we are just lugging balls into the box. And like they say, it's just going into no man's land. It's going all the way onto the other side of either it's getting knocked away by the defence, or it's going all the way on over to the other side of the box for us to pick up the pieces. I feel as if that we need to do something different now, and I think either get that target man, either bring in Adaloy and see what he does with it, because Hutton is getting a lot of success from that side of the pitch. He's
our most productive outlet, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. He's beating every fullback that's being put in front of him. And he's getting the ball into the box, into the areas that we need to be. We just haven't got that player that's able to put that away. And like you say, it's the strengths of the players that you've got. You've got to play to players' strengths. And if that striker's not seeing success by that ball going into the back of the net, or even seeing that ball, for instance, for that matter of fact, it's a part of the way that we play that is missing, and it's the all important bit as well. Is that final ball into the final third, and making sure that we've got that player to get that ball into the back of the net, and that's the game. And if we're not seeing that success, what's the point? So now it's time for something to be different. Now that's whether or not that's because Hutton's not going to be able to do that every time. He's not going to be able to drive into the box, because I mean, as much pace and as much stamina as we've seen him have this season, if he did that every single time, he would be absolutely knackered, and fullbacks would be just going in for challenges, and who knows, might injure him as well. So we've got to be very careful, and we've got to be very protective of the players. And it's all about timing as well, whether or not he can get that ball into the box, whether or not it's right time to drive. So either we change that aspect of things, and I don't encourage that we should, or we look at another outlet up front. I don't really want us to do that, because I do think Wakeling is a solid player. But also, I think we've got to play to other players' strengths. And if something works without that particular player and somebody else can do a better job with it, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. We've got to do it. We've got nothing really to lose at the moment, because at the moment we're not scoring any goals. No, manager is not change of manager is not the thing to do at the moment.
No,
I mean,
It's not the thing to do. Do you know what? Letting Lindsay go would be the easy way out. It would be. It would just be the easy way out. And there's no point. I did say at the start of the season, though, if it didn't work with Lindsay, we've not lost anything. Okay? Because he... And I don't say that. I don't want to say this, but he was the cheaper option.
for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other words that I could probably use.
He already knew the club option was the one that was sold to us. He already knew the club. He knew the players. He knew the vision. He was cheaper wages. He knew Swindon as well.
Exactly.
He loved Swindon.
Absolutely, he wanted to do his best for the club as well, because he loves the club as well.
To be fair,
he's been with us at academy level as well. So it's
To be fair, I had nothing against Lindsay's appointment.
No, right.
I still don't. I think he was people obviously say about the cheap option stuff, but with what we're trying to achieve, we need to have some sort of consistency. Now, manager leaving after one season in a project that was clearly going to take longer, and he said when he got the job, I reckon he was there for a couple of years to help build a club of young players and had a vision. Now, if someone's there that still has that vision and still wants to buy into it, take a chance on him. I think I would take a chance on him for this whole season, because, okay, what have we lost? Okay, we're still in League Two. If we are, but he would have learned as a manager and stuff. And then, obviously, if you question the start of next season, but I think what we're trying to build as a club, we need consistency. We need a manager. So we've got some of that with the manager, although he's going to have different ideas to what Garner did. And stuff like that. He's bought into the vision of what we're trying to do as a club. Because with what we're trying to do, you've got to find a manager that's got if you've got rid of Lindsay, you've got to find someone with that exact same vision. Which I genuinely think with all the candidates and some, they didn't find someone that fitted exactly what they wanted to do. Which you've got to maybe give credit to them, because they're stuck on their vision. And obviously, if it doesn't work this season, maybe revisit parts of it, the bits that worked, the bits that didn't, and we're in a strong position for it next year.
People have also got to realise as well that Lindsay is first season and he's 8th in League Two, and we're 1 point off the playoffs.
Well, on that point,
by Christmas.
On that point, I want to jump in and just say, and I appreciate it's being used to make the point, particularly you're trying to make here, Kieran, but we're talking like the season's over and we haven't reached the playoffs, or we're not going to get promoted. Like we're halfway through December. There's still a long way to go. We've
brought this up a lot before as well, and we look at Bristol Rovers from last season. I mean, they could have sacked.
I'm bored of hearing about Bristol Rovers.
I know.
You look at Bristol, or you look at Bolton from a couple of years ago.
But it proves the point, though, that you don't need to sack a manager to get success. I mean, they were where were they last season? 17th, 18th at Christmas.
I think Fifey for me
brought a few good players in.
Fifey, I think what the problem is with certainly myself and a lot of the fans is what Lindsay said at the start of the season is we're going to play attacking, progressive, fast football, and we haven't done that. It's been for most of the season. It's hard to think of 3 or 4 games where it's been exciting football. Mansfield, absolutely brilliant, but most of it, and certainly the last few games, it's fucking boring. You're sat watching it, bored to tears. Now, if we were winning every game 1-0 and near the top of the league, supporters, me included, but wouldn't give a shit. Yeah, we're fucking top of the league, great, but we're not. And yes, we're only a few points away from the playoffs, but he's not delivering what he said he would deliver. And then I think that's part of the problem.
So without wishing to cover old ground, let me just ask you, is that his fault or is that Dee McKaylee's fault? Because he is probably, that's what he wants to do and that's what he wants to achieve and that's the style of football he wants to play. But if the person responsible for the recruitment isn't giving him the players to do that, is that his fault?
You got to put some blame on the players as well.
It's,
You have to. You
and
have to.
it's not going to happen overnight. I think he's going to be very. Wellens is a manager to look at as an example. His philosophy it didn't go down too well at the start of the season, or the start of his reign when he was there. But his philosophy took a long time to be implemented on the players, get his players in, and took a long time to sort of click and get to that point. I think Scott Lindsay, with what he's trying to do, it will take a little while to click, and he needs to get a squad of players.
Yeah,
Fifey, that's a real difficult one to answer. Obviously, they say that Lindsay gets like the final sign off of players being brought in. Whether you believe that or not, a different matter. But to me, the manager's got to have a really good say. I mean, we've talked on this pod in the past, and there's a pity he's not here tonight. Ben in particular, saying, all the signings we've made, in the vast majority, they're really good, young, skillful, hungry players. And, when they turn it on, yes, it's great, but we haven't done it enough. Now, is that down to when they cross that white line and get on the pitch? Is it down to how they're managed and how they're told they're going to play? Is it down to the tactics? I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't know. I don't get paid the bucks for that. So, don't know the answer, mate.
I'm very surprised at the comment that Woody's just put, by the way.
Right, flash it back up there.
Yeah. It's not something I would have expected Woody to say, actually.
Well, Nick, you've just said there you're not a coach. You can't say. If only we had someone of coaching experience, we could ask these sorts of questions to.
Who would that be then?
I mean, I just want to flash this one up from Mike again for you there, Steve. I told you it was like chatting football down the pub. You don't get this nonsense elsewhere. I do feel sorry because we've got you on and we have this opportunity to tap into your expertise, and then we just go off like we normally do on a rant about one thing or another and just sort of leave you sat there silently listening to us talking nonsense. But from your side of things, because you can see things from being in changing rooms and stuff before, do you kind of get a different view when you listen to fans just bickering like this and hearing where they're coming from?
I think the difficult thing is from both sides of the fence is that as a fan, you literally just see what happens on 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon. What you don't see is what happens within the club, on the training ground, in the gym, behind the scenes, day in, day out. So you go there and you think, oh, why isn't so-and-so playing? And so you're not happy as a fan because he might be one of your favourite players. But you don't know how he's trained during the week. You don't know if he's been a pain in the backside. You don't know if he's turned up late for training. You don't know actually if he's carrying a niggle or an injury where he's not playing at the best. You're trying to shepherd him through games, but he's not playing at his best because he's carrying a niggle, or that you might have to take him off after 60 minutes to manage his workload, i.e., as was the case earlier in the season with your Johnny Williams, your Ben Gladwins, people like that, who have in their past had injury problems and you've not actually got them out on the pitch much. What I think the big credit should go to at the club is the medical and sports science team that they've got this year, in that they've managed their workload so that they can get them out on the pitch more. Ben Gladwin hasn't played as much football, in the past as he has done this season. So you have to give credit to the medical staff and the sports science staff. I know they're really well thought of there. So my point is, there are lots of things that do go on in the training ground across the course of the week, which is a reason why a manager or a coach might pick a particular player or a particular team or a particular formation. It isn't just about what you see as a fan on a Saturday afternoon. Why isn't so-and-so playing? So that is one thing I would say. Going back to the point that everybody beats Scott with the stick about we're going to play fast, progressive, attacking football and everything like that. All I would say to that is I've never heard a manager get a job and in his first interview say, we're going to be boring, we're not going to be very good, but we might win but yeah, we might win some, we might lose some. Every manager comes out with the same spiel. Your first few interviews, you're trying to get the fans on side. You're trying to be positive. You're going to say positive things. You're going to say, what manager actually comes on and says, we're going to smash it in the channels. We're going to boot it long to a big centre forward. Nobody says that. Everyone says we're going to play, beautiful football and play through the thirds. They all say the same thing. So I think it's a little bit harsh to beat Scott with that stick because just imagine he'd come on and say, "Well, I'm not really sure, lads. To be honest."
I mean, literally the opposite to that would be to appoint Sam Allardyce, and he would literally just say, "We're going to lump it forward, and that's it. That's all we're going to do."
Or our favourite non-managers, Steve Evans.
John Sheridan.
Well, indeed.
Yeah, but he said fuck all.
That is true. Actually. Oh yeah.
You've only been with us for 59 minutes, but already Woody has suggested, Steve, that you're more than welcome to come on again because you pretty much agree with everything he's said all season already.
Who's this Woody? Who's this Woody?
Where's Woody?
Where's my Woody?
we know where Woody is. Woody gets scared and intimidated when anyone other than a regular panelist comes on. So he likes to go hiding.
Oh.
He likes to go hiding when the big
again.
guests come on.
Getting biting.
He ain't got the bottle for it. We all know that.
No, in all seriousness, I've been around enough football clubs now to see the mentalities of some players, the characters of some players. Some players you think are fantastic players, technically gifted players, but you don't see what they actually do week in, week out. And some of the things that go on, and you think, how on earth are you a professional footballer with the way they act and they behave? Well, I'm being serious. Like there are some poor professional football players out there that have got ability, and likewise there are some players with limited technical ability who are fantastic professionals and make the most of their careers.
That's exactly what Gerald said, wasn't it, when he was on the other day? He said it was all about professionalism.
I think people forget that footballers aren't machines, they're not robots, they are human beings just like me and you, and they'll have good days and they'll have bad days, and they'll have had a fight with the missus in the morning, they'll have had a baby who's been crying, they might be feeling ill themselves. There's so many things that go on in somebody's life that has an impact on their job, just like any industry you're in. So like I say, what a fan sees on Saturday afternoon at 3:00, they haven't seen what's gone on in the build up to that game on the week. So I because I've been a fan and I've worked in the game, I do see both sides to it. So I was a fan on Saturday watching that game. I came away disappointed, a little bit bored, but like I say, I've also got, I haven't been in that Swindon dressing room this week. I haven't seen what training they've been able to do with the frosted pitches, and they might have struggled to get out on the pitch. Or you've got the 3G now at Foundation Park, which is good for them. But there's just so many variables. And what the other thing you have to take into account is we all concentrate on our team. There's 11 players on the opposition side of the pitch who are trying to stop you win and try and win themselves. So sometimes you actually have to give credit to the opposition that they've done a good job on yourself. There's so many variables that come down to how to win a game of football. So I'm not sitting here saying Scott's got everything right this season at all. But he's learning on the job. The team is currently 8th in the table, 2 points off the top 4. They're 9th in the form table. Strangely enough, the home form, they're 6th, and they're lower down in the away form, whereas I think last season it was probably the opposite way around.
Yeah.
And there's still 25 games to play. So, I probably am a little bit biased towards Scott, but I certainly think it's too early to be calling for someone's head. There's so many football clubs now that are just sacking managers left, right and centre.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily think that works. It's a short-termism and hoping that you get a kick of results. But ultimately, if you got rid of Scott tomorrow, firstly, who are Swindon going to attract? And that's not being disrespectful to Swindon. But when the job was vacant in the summer, people were throwing names like Michael Carrick out there. Absolutely pie in the sky. There is no way on this planet Michael Carrick was coming to Swindon Town Football Club. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So, it's all right.
I'll be honest, I was a believer, Steve. I thought he was coming.
I wasn't. When I saw Michael Carrick, I thought there's absolutely no chance he's coming to Swindon Town Football Club. So, people talk about Scott being a cheap option. Nobody's told me what the wages are for the job. So we don't know what Swindon could have paid for a manager. So I'm not sure about comments like that. It'll be deemed a cheaper option because he was already in the building, because he's not a Paolo Di Canio name, shall we say. He's always going to get deemed as that cheaper option. And I've been quite honest with him at the start of the season and said, the only way to get the fans around on your side is to win games of football. It's as simple as that. Because when you're winning, people love you. When you're losing, people hate you. That's the nature of the game. Whether you're Scott Lindsay, whether you're a name in the game, if you're winning games, you'll be popular. If you lose games, you won't be. It's as simple as that. I've waffled there, haven't I? Really, but
No,
I was just going to pick up on
Yeah,
the whole thing with Scott Lindsay there. Obviously, I think the reason I think we say that is because obviously he was still within the club, and that no amount of money would have had to be paid for. He didn't have like a release clause or anything like that. It was basically a promotion within the club. So I think that's more in light of what we're saying. We didn't go out to another club and had to pay some fee to bring that manager in and then give him a salary. I think the fact that obviously Lindsay was already within the club and it was basically just like a promotion really for him. And I think that's where the whole cheap option is coming from. I don't think there's any, I think maybe some particular people, it might be trying to think of the word now, more of it being attacked on him that he was the cheap option, but whereas we're looking at it,
I'd be surprised if Swindon were in the position in the summer where they would have gone and bought somebody out of a contract as a manager. I think whoever was going to get the job was either going to be Scott promoted from within, or it was going to be a manager out of work. And then you could question, well, if he's out of work, why is he out of work? You know, you're not guaranteed to get success. There's a lot of journeyman managers doing the circuit, and failed at one club and they've gone to another club. So I don't honestly know what the options were. There was, I think, the guy from Brighton was close. Now, if he'd have got the job, you could argue, well, people have said that Scott's not got any experience. Well, nor did the guy at Brighton. So what would you have benefited from that? I don't think people like Michael Carrick were ever really seriously in the running. So I don't know many other managers of a reasonable track record that were actually in the frame for a job. Like I say, I don't think they would have paid compensation to another club to try and pitch their manager. So it would probably had to have been somebody who was out of work at the time.
I think the frustration at the moment is that we had a battling draw at Bradford that quite a few of us went to, and that was a real good performance. Although if you listen to some of our Bradford friends, they would have quite a different view on who was the better team. We absolutely smashed Mansfield, and that was just phenomenal. But then then after that, Scott switched to 3 at the back, and we lost or gained no points from 3 games. I think we lost 3 on the trot. And it seemed, why the hell did you do that? And those games have been particularly boring. Now, like you say, there's a lot to do, obviously, with the players, because they're the ones that go out on the pitch and perform that. But it's just that frustration of, what we could be. And we have got bloody good players, and we have got skillful players. We showed it. We showed some fight at Bradford when we had to. We showed some lovely football at Mansfield, which was just, a different level. And then we dropped back into absolute boredom. And that's where it becomes frustrating. And then you get frustrated and you start questioning anything and everything. And the worry is the crowds will start to drop. I mean, it said, 8,500 on Saturday, but I think that was including season ticket sales. I think the actual numbers were probably a lot lower than that from the pictures you see with the gaps around the stands. So, and I know it's Christmas week and there were lots of other things going on, weather, Christmas shopping, England playing, etc. But that's the worry. we need to, Panto. We need desperately these next few games to get something out of them. Otherwise, the season could just dwindle, and that would be the worst thing ever.
What I didn't get is why did we fix it? And I've said this before, why did we fix something that wasn't broken? Do you know what I mean? I know we lost Johnny Williams because of the World Cup and everything like that, but the performance itself for Mansfield, I just don't feel as if that we needed to change anything really in terms of formation wise. I think, like you say, we had the players that could have easily done a job, and that could have come in for Johnny. When he went whilst he was off for the World Cup. I just why change something that's not broken? And I don't know, that's the motto really.
I think also I think the Swindon squad, I might be proved it wrong, but I think the Swindon squad is very young as a squad as a whole. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to the goalkeeping situation, when you get young players, you talk about why things change, but sometimes when you get young players, what they haven't got in that experience is that their form will dip as well. So when you pay more money, you get better quality. When you get more experienced players, you're probably going to get a player that's going to churn out a 7 out of 10 out every week. With a younger player, you might, and I like this one, talk about the young goalkeepers coming out of 21's sides, that one week they might be a 4 out of 10, the next week they might be a 9 out of 10, but you don't generally get a consistent sort of 7, 8 out of 10, which Sol is actually providing this year. But that will happen also with outfield players as well. So if you've got a young squad, there is going to be a dip in form across that course that season. It's going to be a roller coaster. Like I say, when you get a team or when you get a certain amount of experience within your team, they're the ones that you look to. They're the ones that do generally produce a 7 out of 10 performance week in, week out, because they've learned what it's like to play in the League 2, League 1, and you'll get a more consistent performance out of experienced players. There's not that many really experienced players in the Swindon squad, I think. So I do think that will play a part as well. And if you try and go in and get experience, that will cost you money as well. And which I don't think has been the case with Swindon this year. I don't think the budget's been such that they can get the top quality that they need, particularly at the front end of the pitch, or the experience that they need to try and be quite solid throughout that side. So, like I say, there are many reasons why things are as they are. But I don't think it's doom and gloom. Like I say, there's 25 games to go. They're 8th in the table. But yeah, I also understand, the form in the last sort of 5 games isn't what everybody wants it to be, and I'm sure everybody inside of the club will want it to be better than that. But yeah, it's this is why we love football, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Steve, I just want to flash a comment back up from our friend Joe and ask you about the second part of it, because we, as a pod, have had lots to say about this for months, if not going on into the 2 years we've been doing this. And it's just regarding the section here. The mood and the atmosphere at the CG is awful at the moment. We've spoken a lot about the atmosphere at the county ground. What do you make of it when you're able to go? Does it seem quieter than it should?
100%. So again, obviously, I've worked for the club for 9 years. I stood on the terraces as a kid. I stood on Stratton Bank with Bournemouth fans throw rocks over. I've done all of that. And even like when Paolo was there, obviously there was a big buzz around the ground. But certainly the last probably couple of seasons, I've been surprised how quiet it's been. It used to be the town end would get things going and then perhaps other stands would join in. But I was listening on Saturday and I think I probably once heard, give us an S, give us a W. I heard that once in the whole game. So certainly the last couple of seasons, I haven't heard the singing. I haven't heard the vocal side to it. I don't know what I put that down to. Is it the way the world is going with young people coming through who don't communicate as well because they're on laptops and iPads and phones? I honestly don't know, but I would agree that the atmosphere at the county ground over the last few seasons is nowhere near what it used to be, but I also get it's a chicken and egg situation. You need something on the pitch to get the crowd going. But I think sometimes you need the crowd to get the players going. And people might say, how can you say that? They're paid professionals, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that. But again, they're human beings as well. Just like we spoke about that ball-winning centre midfielder, winning a massive tackle in the middle of the pitch. That's sparking off the fans. That's sparking off their teammates. I think it's the chicken and egg where, yes, they've got to do something on the pitch to get the fans going. But I also think sometimes the fans have got to do something in the stands to get the players going, if that makes sense. But yes,
absolutely.
The issue is all the players we've got are all fairly similar, and this is where we miss somebody like McCurdy. He got things going. He was a shithouse, but he was our shithouse, and that was great. And we haven't got that character, that driver in the side at the moment that will make those things happen.
There aren't many of those about, though, are there? Really?
No, they're not. I mean, there's one we'll probably talk about soon, I guess. Fifey, it's
on the agenda.
Lot in the system at the moment.
Stephen, conscious that we've already taken up well over an hour of your time, and as I said before we started, you're more than welcome to stay for the entirety of this if you want to, but equally we wouldn't be offended if you do want to get off and enjoy the rest of your evening. But I did just want to ask sort of what else is going on with you right now. I know you were telling us that you've got a couple more of the radio commentaries coming up over the festive period.
we're coming up for, I think this weekend we break up with Coventry Academy. Not last week, the week before, I did a week out in Spain with the first team to cover for the goalkeeping coach. So that was a great week for me, working in the first team environment again. Adi Vivash, ex-Swindon, obviously assistant manager of Coventry. So it was great working with Adi. Yeah, so we've got the Christmas break coming up from this weekend. So I've got 2 weeks off, I think. So I'm booked in to do Warsaw at home and Northampton away, so I'm looking forward to that, because I think the last game I did was back in September, which was the Sutton game, and just with again all my commitments, I haven't had a chance to do any since then. So I'm looking forward to getting back to the county ground and doing a couple of radio games with BBC Wiltshire Sport.
Excellent, and we hope that we'd be able to invite you back again to maybe talk about a more exciting game in the not too distant future. Then,
yeah, no problem at all. I've loved it. To be fair, it's good to see you all and talk Swindon. And apologise if I've waffled. I do kind of carry away and waffle a little bit, but
honestly, if you ever get the chance to see some of our other panelists, then you'll really get to know what waffling is.
Especially when asking a question, Ben.
But no, it's been superb. A word on the women's team as well while we're doing the weekend review, that as with games up and down the country at all levels, games were getting called off for frozen pitches and such like. However, we did find out that this coming weekend there will be a second round, the delayed second round plate game, and Southampton will be the opposition away from home. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that on Friday's episode. Sorry, Rich, did you want to say something there?
No. That was literally all I was going to say on that. But yeah, no, exciting times for the women, and hopefully they can.
Woody's inviting you to the Fools Rushing meetup at Northampton, Steve.
Is he paying?
He'll be too busy.
Oh, no chance.
Well, to be fair, mate,
Thanks, Radio Cocoms. There's a red player over there.
If you say you're coming, Steve, Woody won't turn up. Let's be honest.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah.
There are some other STFC related news stories I want to get to before we mull over what happened with England, and we have to start with the very sad news that broke on Saturday regarding Matthew Baudry. He stuck out a post on his Instagram, which then got relayed on Facebook and Twitter everywhere. Basically, that he has done his ACL, and the way he was talking in his post, he's pretty much sure that's it. And I know a lot of us on this podcast have been big fans of his. Rich, you were particularly sad when you saw the post, weren't you?
Yeah, massively. I think obviously it's nothing new. The fact that obviously Baudry has obviously had his fair share of injuries, and even before he came to Swindon, obviously when he was at MK Dons, he massively struggled there as well. I think he only played 5 games for them in that one season that he was there. So and ever since he came to us, but he's a massive character, as obviously from what we've been told, he's one of the big ones in the actual dressing room, from what we've been told, under the Wellens era, and then everything that went on with Sheridan, now obviously in the Garner and Lindsay era. So he'll be massively lost, but hopefully he'll be able to stay with the club in some capacity, whether or not that's a coaching role or anything like that. But even this season, I think he was very, very close to packing it in at the end of last season, and those last 8 or 9 games that he played towards the end of the season that got us to the playoffs, you could tell that it was coming to the end for him anyway. But even this season, I think up until Stockport in the FA Cup, he was having some absolutely unbelievable games. He came on against Doncaster for McDonald back in September, and he was absolutely excellent. He is a top pro. He is fantastic, and he's going to be massively missed on the pitch. But praying and hoping that the coaching will hopefully work out for him if that's what he wants to go into.
No, absolutely. I'm just going to jump in very quickly because I know Steve does have to go. So again, thank you very much for coming on, Steve. And to try and convince you, we've got everyone involved. Joe's messaged in again, who is hoping to join us at Northampton as well. She's making pigs in blankets for everyone. If that's going to convince you.
I didn't get mine on Saturday.
So
she posts them through my door.
So we're all working on it. But no, thank you very much. We hope that you'll come and join us again very soon, and we'll talk about some Red Saber. But thank you very much for your time, Steve. We do appreciate it.
Cheers, Steve.
Cheers.
Nick, let's come to you on Baudry.
I think it says a lot for the guy that great respect for him, like him, even though he's a Frenchie. After what they did to us Saturday. So, he was class player. As Rich said, he suffered a lot with injuries. Maybe it was a season too much. He was obviously on a high from last season. He was debating whether to sign or not. And it is just really, really sad how it's ended. You don't wish that on anybody. But I guess rather at that end of his career than at the start of a career that you get that injury. So, good luck to him in what he does. Great respect for the guy, as I say. I don't think I'll be cheering for the French, even though we like Frenchie. So good luck to you, mate.
I think it was more disappointing than the fact that he got injured in like a development game as well.
Yeah.
A game that meant absolutely nothing.
Meant nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And he couldn't come off and applaud the fans and everything like that. I'm sure he'll get that opportunity.
There will definitely be a farewell address, won't there?
And absolutely loved the guy. I mean, he was another shithouse. You could see that he used his social media to shithouse. I remember the whole thing.
Oh yeah, they put
Sheridan back in March. That was absolutely hilarious. So but no, absolutely think he's a top player, top pro,
top man.
Anything you want to add to that, Kieran?
No, it's a real shame for him. I think you got to give him a lot of credit because before last season, when he sort of had his resurgence, a lot of fans were saying sort of fucking sack him off and get rid of him. He's pointless. But he came out stronger, fighting fit, and probably played the best football I've seen him, certainly playing a Swindon shirt. And it was a hell of a resurgence. And maybe it was one season too many, but when you had the sort of end to the season you had with him last year, and you've got an opportunity, another crack at it, you'd all go for it again. Yeah. And it's a real shame for him because his commitment to the club as well. He could have, because I know there's rumours he's going to a club on the south coast nearer to where he lives, and he's driving up here sort of every week to come up here. His commitment to that's been fantastic, and I hope maybe there's a future for him at the club within a coaching role or something like that.
If you guys want anything to inspire you to carry on delivering the great content that you have done, not just tonight, but throughout the entirety of your tenure at Fools Rush In, the aforementioned Ben, or should we say Jack? No, Ben would have finished work 22 minutes ago, I'm sure. He's sent us in a picture that he is currently watching us from his bed. So there you go. But no, on a more serious note, we do obviously everyone, not just associated to Fools Rush In, but with Swindon Town, and I'm sure all the other clubs he has represented, to send him the very best, wish him the speediest of recoveries, and like Rich said, there will definitely, if this is to be the end, and in such a sad way, as you say, in a development game that meant nothing, there will certainly be a send off, I'm sure, in the offing soon. Mike, is Woody going to join the panel now? Steve has got.
Watch him come on.
To which Woody said, I thought about
it. He's less scared now.
Yeah, indeed. Well, guys, I've managed to hold it off for nearly 90 minutes, but I suppose we're going to have to.
Better than England did.
There doesn't seem to be an episode go by at the minute without this. More rumor, suggestion, stories, whatever you want to call it, lies, truths, hidden secrets, however you want to dress it up. There's more tales regarding the return of the prodigal son, and
or non-return.
Indeed. Let's start with Kieran on this. Are you any more convinced it's going to happen?
I'm convinced it's fucking absolutely not going to happen, and it's going to be absolute carnage on social media because Sandro Di Michele is going to delete his Twitter account over this, I think, because the amount of fans he's already got on things about fucking why he's not done. Oh yeah, I follow him. I follow him. I follow him just to see what he tweets. It's very inspirational. He doesn't fucking boring, to be honest with you. It's not worth a follow.
Rich is now frantically looking for him on Twitter.
I think he's like Sandy Andy Michele or so. Fucking proper
Sandy
dad.
Andy.
Proper dad. Like Shandy Di Michele or something fucking stupid like that. Guy's a prick.
Anyway,
I digress.
He watches this, Kieran.
I don't think.
Does he fuck?
Charlie Austin, if I would love in some ways Charlie Austin to come back, I wouldn't in other ways because if it doesn't go well, it could slightly taint. Well, maybe not fully taint because of how well he did, but it could slightly taint everything he did first time round. But I can still never turn the opportunity down to sign him if it was presented to me as a manager or a director of football or an owner of a football club. I really, really hope if he signs to somewhere else, it's not fucking Bristol Rovers because, oh my God, like that also, it doesn't ruin his legacy at Swindon because at least it's not Oxford. But fuck me, if he signs to Bristol Rovers, it's just going to be, it just realise how shit we are and how badly we've fallen of even Charlie Austin can't sign. But if it doesn't happen for the club, the fact that there's probably known that they had the opportunity to do so, it's been very broadcast on social media, fucking shoot themselves in the foot. Commercially, it's great. It's what they want. It might not fit into the model, but we need a fucking target man poacher striker. Like, he's ideal. Like, get him signed. Whatever the wages are, get his name, piece of paper, write it down, whatever he wants.
I've got something to say.
Is he as capable in this system as Adeloy, Kieran?
Fucking Adeloy, what's Adeloy done in the fucking game? Charlie Austin's played in the fucking Premier League. He's a proven goal scorer. Adeloy, fucking, he's not even fit to lace his boots up. In fact, if Charlie Austin signs, Adeloy has to go up the fucking change room, has to drive him into training every day, has to clean his boots and fucking lick his socks dry.
Kieran, Rich. Let's try this again. Rich, you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, no, I was just going to quickly say, obviously, I'd want Charlie Austin back. I would love to see him go out in a Swindon shirt for one last time. Even if it is for a few games, even if it's just off the bench, really doesn't really matter. My only concern, and actually, I spoke to one of my mates the other day, earlier today, actually, and he's a Man United fan, as well as a Swindon fan, but he. I think he's getting a little bit of PTSD because he's seen everything that's happened with Ronaldo. Now, I'm not saying Charlie Austin's going to be anything like Ronaldo.
He's better than Ronaldo. Fuck that prick.
But if you get it, he went back to United. It didn't work out. He left on bad terms, and if it didn't work out for Charlie Austin this time round, would we destroy everything that he once built with us?
No.
I wouldn't. I don't think it is, and I don't think it's the same. And bearing in mind, we're not fucking Premier League. It's not as if he's gone to Australia and then he's coming back to Premier League again.
Let's be honest, though, despite everything,
he's coming to League Two.
Everything that's happened in this last 12 months, the majority of Man United fans would still say Ronaldo's the best player they've seen play for them.
Oh, of course, absolutely, 100%. He's not in that category with Messi for no bloody reason, obviously he started off his career obviously he made his mark at Man United and then built his way up to Real Madrid, etc. and stuff like that. It's the same with Charlie Austin. He started off at bloody Conference Pool and then came to us in League One, then got his great and big move up to the Championship and then the Premier League. So he's worked himself up. The whole going to Australia thing, I sort of think it was a bit of a midlife crisis, maybe. I don't know. Either that or he just wanted a holiday.
Just to clarify, midlife crisis. Charlie Austin is how old?
33.
Right, so he's
but if he only lives to 66 and he's midlife, we don't know how long he's going to live.
Exactly.
So Charlie Austin, Charlie Austin is literally the age I'm going to be in a month's time, and you're saying midlife crisis.
Your midlife crisis.
You mid 20-year-olds.
Hopefully, this podcast is your midlife crisis.
You mid 20-year-olds can all go fuck yourselves.
Don't. He's only just got over. I'm glad he didn't ask Steve what his job was. So you're a goalkeeper? No.
Ridiculous. Nick, let's get some sense of let's get some sensibility back in this conversation, please, before juniors take over.
Yeah, let's get the oldies in now.
Let's get the oldies in.
Right. To sign Charlie Austin is an absolute no-brainer for a number of reasons. One, he's the shithouser we need. He's the dark arts we need up front. Just think, we've got Wakelin, 21. We've got Jepcott, who's I think 22. Think what he could teach those two forwards. So much. He would put minimum of 1,000 on the gate. That's, what's that, 25 grand if he puts 1,000 on the gate. Financially, it will be a massive benefit. His experience will be a massive benefit to the team. He will get the crowd going. And I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there was a clip of him having a massive bust up with the centre half at Brisbane.
Oh, superb. Absolutely superb.
That's what I say when we are too nice. That's what it needs in that fucking changing room. You know, what did he say to the bloke? Clear the fucking ball. Just fucking clear it. That's your job. And they were going hammering down each other.
He wouldn't have a problem with Angus MacDonald in that, because he does clear the ball, but Scott Lindsay tells him not to. He tells him to pass it nicely.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, like we've said, and there's been lots of talk tonight about the way we play, and it's been fucking boring, and everybody's just unhappy with the club. And once you start getting into that level, crowds start dwindling. Charlie Austin would give us the boost we need at the moment. We're missing the McCurdy bit of shithousery, and not only that, he's a fucking good footballer. He's a proven goal scorer, and even with shit balls into the box, he will score goals because he will know where to be at that time to take that ball and make the space in the 6-yard box to score. So there's not, to me, a counter argument on bringing him in. All right, he doesn't fit the model of bringing the young kids in developing them, in selling them on. But you don't need 11 of those. We've got 7, 8, 9 of those in the team at the moment. That's all you need. And yeah, bring Austin in to be that extra bit of experience shithousery, and it would be magic. In just fucking do it, please. Just do it.
At this point in time, it's more about a team effort rather than individual players. And sometimes you need to have the players that fit the mold, that can build the team round. And to have Austin up top, to have all the other players to have an incentive to get that ball into the box, for somebody that has proven that he can finish the ball in and put it in the back of the net, is something that we do need. And I completely agree with you, Nick. I really do think it. And like you say, it would be a statement signing to have Charlie Austin to come back.
Be a hell of a statement signing, and I think they say he brings a lot to the table other than just playing on the pitch. He'll bring a lot into that dressing room. I see there's rumours going around that Scott Lindsay's that's potentially a rumour that some of the management team are worried about, that he's a bigger personality than them and will take over that. But sometimes you need them.
We had Harry McCurdy last season.
Yeah, but he's not. He's a different kettle of fish and you've got to look at why he was shipped off. But Charlie Austin's your old school. Will come in and call you a cunt. He probably wouldn't be scared to call Scott Lindsay a cunt if he was being a cunt. But so he's not afraid to go in there. He'll have bust ups everyone. But that's it'll be something good. But I think he could also be a good impact player from.
Can you imagine if he came back that first game at the county ground? What it would be like? I mean, the whole, honestly, it would put that many on the gate and the place would be rocking. And that's what we need at the moment.
If he comes back and I will get a fucking Swindon shirt with Austin on the back, whatever number he wears.
There you are. Hundreds would do the same.
I'd second that as well.
So, fucking Sandro Di Michele, with your fucking shitty little Excel spreadsheet, or if it's not been funded properly,
fucking Excel spreadsheet.
It's probably a Google Sheets one because they can't afford the Excel license.
Just put pound signs on. Just put pound signs on that spreadsheet, is for what
Yeah.
Austin would bring into the club.
Stand over there.
He'd probably get his, the thing is, Clem would probably get his money back just as
Easy, more than.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if it was just
You
the
say that, lads, but think
even if it
about
was
it
just the 6 months.
realistically.
That's why they
You said-
restocked the club shop. That's why they restocked it. It's going to get him fucking Austin back. He's coming
You-
home.
He's coming home.
That's why they got more
As
on
much
shirts.
as
No
I-
one wants it otherwise.
As much as I love the excitement, let's just clarify. He would make his money back in shirt sales alone, right? So shirts are what, 55?
No,
quid
not shirt
probably
sales
now?
alone.
Not that much.
No,
Yeah, but you'd get the
think of
additional
mugs
attendance
with Charlie
back.
Austin's mug on it. Think of flags with Charlie Austin's face on it.
Think big.
Of, all the merchandise you can produce with Charlie Austin. It programs with Charlie Austin in it. Fucking shirt signings.
We could have an Aussie pasty.
But yeah, Cal Meadow's going to get.
Fuck Cal Meadow.
Fuck Cal Meadow. Ship him out on loan. Fuck him off.
Feed the cow.
Sorry.
Feed the cow and he will score.
So today, all this excitement, and then tomorrow announce Charlie Austin signs the Bristol Rovers.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'd give up. I'd go sport.
To be
Bristol
fair, he
Rovers
hasn't
and
actually
join
even
them.
terminated. I know his contract's being terminated by Brisbane. It still hasn't been done yet, so still waiting.
No, he's probably sat at the airport like, "Come on, I want to go. Come on."
One thing I can assure everyone is Kieran hasn't had one too many today.
Nah, man's done.
That
three.
just shows how bad Coca-Cola is for you.
It's Coke Zero as well. It's not even any sugar in it. It's just working from home. You don't get to speak to many people all day. So it's like you get a bit excited. You get a bit.
Kieran's seen
overexcited.
some faces and got all excited. What was this one from Shaw? Desk calendar, the club shop Saturday on sale display was on month with Charlie Austin. Wow, there we go. So let's do as we seem to do every episode. Then quick straw poll as we sit here now. Do you think we think at some time this season competitively Charlie Austin will have a Swindon shirt on? Rich.
Yes.
Ooh, I'm sure you said no every time I've asked you so far. Nick?
Oh, heart yes, head no. Sorry, that's a cop out. Yes,
Yeah.
fuck it, yes.
Okay. Kieran?
Nah, I don't think we will.
After all that excitement.
I would love to, but I would love to, but I just think there's things that are going on we don't know that it's not.
There's lots going on we don't know.
It's not going to be as easy as it sounds.
Never
We
say
know fuck
never,
all.
either.
Kieran, we know fuck all, let's face it.
We certainly aren't in the know the count, are we?
No.
Well, our in the nose fucking not here.
Tim, who's joined in. Hope you are well, sir. Shall we move on then? We've had our say on Charlie. In fact, let's. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping while we're here. We mentioned them in the episode on Friday. We posted the links out as well. But just a reminder, if you can and you're able to, there is the Swindon Christmas Appeal that Wazza was referring to. A very worthwhile cause. All the links and stuff have been promoted on our social media. And then Joe also mentioned to us about, and this picture isn't quite as big, but the Community Foundation's food appeal, that is also still going on this week. So if you are able to help either, both, any, then please do. Very worthwhile causes, helping people within the community. Let's go on then to our final topic of tonight. They're coming home. Or in fact, I actually think they are home now. England are out of the World Cup after defeat to France. And it has to be said, gents, our WhatsApp group is normally a hostile place after Swindon lose. But my God, did we argue about England. Needless to say, just to paint the picture for you, for those interested, I got in just as the first Harry Kane penalty went in. To put in perspective the atmosphere in my house, the sofa just beside me here is where I was sat. My son was on the other one over there. I looked so miserable that at full time, my son doesn't like football, but he sat and watched the second half with me with his McDonald's. At full time, he took his blanket and his drink. He walked up the stairs, and I found out today he texted his mum, say, "I think Dad's going to cry." So that's the mood in my house. I mean, for me, and you'll all get your say. I'm going to throw it out there. There's been a lot of stuff, particularly in our WhatsApp group, that's been said that I don't agree with in the slightest. I think from the bit I was able to listen to and from what I watched, we were definitely the better side, particularly in that second half. I think we were unlucky, and I think it's frustrating to be out. And it's upsetting to be out, because I genuinely did believe, I'm the eternal optimist. Every tournament since '98, I have believed that we will win it. But the last three, I've genuinely, it's not been hope, it's been genuine belief. And I believe, I do think that losing to France hurt more than losing to Italy. And I appreciate that's weird, because that was a final, but we lost on a penalty shootout in a game where we weren't particularly good. For me, France had the one opportunity in the second half. They took it. All the talk pre-match was about Mbappe, virtually non-existent. And I genuinely thought this was our chance to be world champions again, and it's just not quite happened. The accusation that kept going around that England bottled it, I don't think is true. I think you can lose and not bottle it. I think the fact that we've gone toe-to-toe with the world champions and outplayed them suggests it's not bottling, it's just unlucky. But that's just my perspective. And as we say all the time, football is all about opinions. I know Rich is waiting to say I told you so I'll go to Nick first.
Cheers, Fifey. Yeah, I mean, I've seen massive disappointments over World Cups in European Championships. This was probably one where I wasn't as upset that we went out of the competition. Yes, we played well. We went toe-to-toe with France, the world champions. We should have beat them. We had decent opportunities. A couple of saves from Lloris, who I thought would be their weak link, but fair play to him, he actually played well. And obviously the penalty miss was just soul destroying. So yeah, not as disappointed. We've got it, and we talked about young players. It is a relatively young squad, a young team out there. There's a few old heads. Say Kane should have scored the penalty. I did say before the game, I said it'd be 2-2 and we'd win in extra time. If he'd have scored that penalty, would it have happened? Who knows? If buts and maybes.
I believe if the game had had an extra 5 minutes more additional time, we definitely would have scored.
Yeah. I mean, Maguire should have scored one from that header. Put it the wrong side of the post. Should have scored that. Lloris pulled off a really good save from Bellingham, and that was going just under the bar. So we had our chances. You can't take away they scored 2 decent goals, and there's lots of talk about, well, it should have been a free kick on Saka, but that was by their penalty area. They had the whole length of the pitch to go before that chance was made, so you can't blame that on anybody. But we didn't close the guy down quick enough. He got his shot away. I see there's been a bit of criticism. The keeper could have done better. That's debatable. It was a good hit into the corner. Their second goal, superb. Great cross, great header. So you can't really argue against that. We were unlucky, and so at the end of that game, I was saddened, but it wasn't like what we've seen in the past, that we've been absolute shite and we haven't played to our potential. Right. And I know there's been a lot on our WhatsApp group that we bottled it. No way did we bottle that game. We went toe to toe, and you bottle it because you're not. To bottle it, it means you're not brave enough. We were brave in that game, and we pushed France all the way. In that second half, they were backpedaling all the time. Nobody stood out for them that second half. And like you say, Mbappe, what did he have? One decent run against Walker in the second half when he did him. only just, but he did him, and that was about it from him, to be realistic. Griezmann, I thought, was the main player for them. Thought he had a hell of a game, and to me, he ran the show. Again, it was been said, were we too nice? They were, in that first half, they committed so many fouls and got away with it, and we were letting them do it. Should we, put the boot in a bit more streetwise, bit more of the dark arts? And again, that's a learning thing for young players. With all those young players in there, the future looks good. Will they continue to develop? Who knows? A couple of years' time, Europeans, yeah, we've got every chance, but we'll have as good a chance in that as we've had in this World Cup. Disappointing, I think for quite a few days or weeks leading up to it, people have said the winner of that game will win it, and sadly, they're probably right.
I completely agree. I put in our group that I was worried that was the best chance we were going to have. And then Woody said, I'm pretty sure it was Woody. Ben made a point of posting half the squad's ages and realizing like so many of them are still so young. They just seem to have been around forever. Woody turned around to me and said something along the lines of, it's all right. It just means we're going to win the Euros instead. And I was like, I feel really defeated right now. But yes, in 2 years' time, hopefully we're still doing this in 2 years' time, and I will be absolutely saying with Wazza probably again, HMS Pistol Cup. It's coming. It's coming home with the Euros instead. Kieran, I wanted to ask you about a couple of the comments we've had in as to lead you into the conversation. I flashed up the one from regarding Bellingham will be better than Zidane was the comment that was made in the chat. And just to flash Joe's up here as well, which I think a lot of people, and I'm not using it as an excuse, but it is factually accurate. The referee was fucking awful.
The referee was fucking awful. They weren't all. The quarterfinals had two of the worst refereeing performances in the whole tournament. They had that Argentina. Fuck me. He lost control of that game. A referee at the top level, even if it got made to look like a Sunday league game, like it was not quite as bad as Battle Nuremberg, but it was just all over the fucking shot. And he lost complete control of it, and it was just carnage left, right, centre. That was. I think his performance was slightly worse than the referee on Saturday, which says a lot. But still, the referee was awful, and he needs his bank account checking to see.
Worse than Trevor Kettle is the question there, Kieran.
Worse than Trevor Kettle. No one's worse than Trevor Kettle.
But Kieran, did you read today that the referee is still on the list and he could end up doing the final?
Yeah,
they haven't sent him home.
They've sent Michael Oliver home, but
and he was absolutely brilliant, wasn't he?
Supply of baguettes. Michael Oliver, I rate Michael Oliver as one of the best referees.
He was really good. The game I saw him referee, he was really good.
He's a very good referee.
They sent the guy that ref the Argentina game home today, though.
Thank fuck for that.
I think so.
Fuck me. How is
16.
They ran out of cards.
Yeah.
He ran out of space in his book. He couldn't send anyone off because he couldn't.
He did though.
He's still writing his match report. He's still sat there writing his match report. getting the names of the players. He's still writing that down. But no, the referee was awful, but you can only blame so much on him. But I think it's a problem where you have a South American referee into European teams' games. The European game is very different to that, and I think that has a bearing. But you can only ref what's in front of you. I don't know.
Yeah,
but he wasn't the greatest. I think as well the safety net of VAR's, like Harry Kane's second penalty was an absolute stonewall.
I mean, that is a stonewall penalty.
He could have seen that in real time for where he was. Like, there's no if buts, and the linesman should have seen it. But because the safety net of VAR, he walks away in 5 minutes, so we got a longer time screaming at our tellies. That's a fucking penalty.
Honestly, so much stuff was flying around my living room.
I was like getting closer to it. I was knocking someone's Christmas tree over. It was all. Their dad was up on the sofa, fucking getting forward. The kids were just like, "What's happening?" It was, and so I think that's sort of killing it a little bit. But it was We performed good. We played well, but I think that's the difference between us and France. They've got the experience of winning a major competition. They've got the experience of these big games, and it's moments. Games are won by moments. And this World Cup has been little bursts of teams doing stuff to get into the game. Holland had 15 minutes in the whole game the other night that they were actually decent, and they got a 2-2 draw and took Argentina to penalties.
I'll be honest. I thought when Rashford stood over that free kick, they were going to try and do what Holland did.
Yeah, I don't know. We should have just lumped everywhere up there. But for me, we made a mistake. Harry Kane, I know he's a good goal. So to take 2 penalties in a game is fucking pressure, especially against your club keeper who sees you every day in training for a long, long time. So that second penalty, he's overthinking in his head, and he was going left again, but going higher. It's clear that he goes right to his right, keeper's left every time in training, because that's where Lloris went twice. So he's already not taking the penalty he's normally taking, or he's being expected.
Yeah, but the thing is on that, Kieran, it's great in hindsight. You think if Kane didn't take that second penalty,
someone else missed.
They would say he's bottled it. He's captain. He's the penalty taker. And B, as Fifey said, somebody else missed that. It would have been absolute slaughtered. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he had any choice but to take that penalty.
And let's also, on that note, it's also worth saying, and here's the hypocrisy of football. I sat there and I said, Brazil got everything they deserved by being eliminated, because you've got people like Neymar who think they are fucking in the world's elite, and he is not even in the top 5 players in his own fucking squad. But you've got players like Neymar actually shitting themselves and not taking a penalty.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that though. I think they were just trying to be clever, and I think they just wanted him to score the winning penalty if it got to that point. I'm not.
Yeah, so he was
sure.
Harry Kane absolutely takes the first penalty for England in a shootout.
I'm not saying, but other teams do it differently though, and obviously Neymar is the kind of person that would
Neymar's
want all the. Neymar is.
I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Nick. All the glory.
No, he's a prick.
There's a lot of Brazilians that are twats, especially that referee. But on England, it was hindsight. Like if Kane takes penalty or not, we missed it. We've not won the game. We've had other chances. We could have scored another goal in various different ways. It can't all be pinned on that. That is a moment where you've got one of your best chances to score because it's a penalty, but. We've had other chances to win the game, and that's just an unfortunate moment of it. But ultimately, I don't think we've bottled it, but we cannot say this tournament has been a success because we have gone the least far we have in the last 3 tournaments. We've played all right. We limped it at times. Like the America game was fucking poor. The France game we've played all right. We've still lost the game. We're out of the tournament in a quarter final. I don't think we've done all right.
I think the phrasing is we've met the minimum expectation.
My minimum expectation was get to a semi-final again. But I think we've met the bare minimum. If we went out in the round of 16, I think that would have been
a failure. You
can really say. But I still, as I said the other day, unless you win a tournament, 209 teams in the world fail at the World Cup because they don't win it. Obviously, there's more. I'm including the qualifiers there, but they failed by not qualifying in the first place. But every team in
even Scotland,
32 teams, Scotland failed when they tried to play football. They just are fucking useless. Same as Wales. So Ireland. It's funny. To tell you what, Irish people short memories. All fucking cheering in a pub in Ireland. But how did they get Stockholm going to the World Cup?
It's funny. Actually, it's funny you should say that, Kieran.
Jonathan Douglas in Scotland shirts.
Not the only time France have fucked over a team. Now they get.
Go on, Rich. You've waited patiently.
Now England seem to get fucked over by France. So I think it's level pegging field a little bit now. So I think I can take a little bit more stress off that. But yeah, no, just in terms of the England game itself, I think I thought both teams played a good game. I think both teams sort of, they were fairly open. You could see both teams wanted to win that game, obviously. And, I do think England was probably one of their better performances, actually, out of this whole World Cup. Mm-hmm. And probably one of the most convincing ones. But the quality that France have just in small moments, like, you know, are the type of moments that will pick a team apart, and they'll just take their chances, you know. And I think that's the one thing that France did on Saturday, is that they took their chances, and England had their chances and they didn't take them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? But that's football for you. That is life, you know, and it's not always going to go your way. It never does. And in England's case, it never really has done since 1966. So, but I think in terms of that, though, I think, just admire the absolute class of Olivier Giroud popping up with that header there. And you know what? That is something that he specializes in doing. You know, he's done that for club and country.
Yeah.
Everywhere he's gone. And
Giroud is criminally underrated. Like,
he is
he's so underrated. He's
France's
and
do you know what?
Well,
I have criticised Olivier Giroud so much, and do you know what? I'm eating humble pie right now, because actually, I look at the kind of goals that he scores. All his goals seem to be the exact same. But why are they exact same? Why has he got such a great goal scoring history for club and country? He's now France's leading goal scorer, you know. And he's not even always a starter for France. A lot of the time he has come on in games, and he's already making an impact. I mean, and that cross by Griezmann was just on it. That was just on it. That was Olivier Giroud-esque. That was perfectly on his head. And you know what? Not even the bet. And I know so many people. I mean, I'm not Stones and Maguire's biggest fans, but not even, and I know a lot of people, you know, blow smoke up their ass and stuff like that. I think that they're the best thing since sliced bread. No defender, though, would have stopped Olivier Giroud coming in for that header. That was, I don't want to use the word, but that was perfect. It was perfect, and nothing was stopping that. But good on England getting back in the game. They didn't let France, you know, run away with it in the end. England still kept on pushing. They kept on pushing to the final minute, and they had their chance, obviously, with the second penalty. Okay, it didn't go the way it was hoping to. You would have thought Kane hit that first penalty so convincingly in the top corner. You thought he'd be able to replicate that for a second time. And do you know what? I thought he was going to do that. I thought he was going to absolutely smack that into the top corner or into the top half of the net. And instead he skied it probably back to England. So, you know, it's just the way it is. But I you know, I admire both teams. You know, both teams gave such a good footballing match, and that's what you want to see. You want to see some of the best players in the world.
I think it was Tony Cruz tweeted, the former Germany international, England France without question the best game in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't think it's like the most entertaining match in the World Cup, but I think in terms of player ability and the matchup and the way that match was played out, I think, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Just going on to like England future, I honestly do believe that was England's best chance personally, because you look at 4 years down the line, you potentially lose Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, Jordan Pickford, other players. Jordan Henderson.
I don't see Henderson making the Euros.
No, he won't. No. I'm surprised he even made this World Cup. Obviously, he did score, but I'm still surprised he even made this World Cup. Raheem Sterling. I know he didn't play much. Anyway. I know he didn't play much.
Have come on Saturday. Fuck me.
Yeah, I was surprised he even came on Saturday, to be honest with you. So many players won't be, or they'll be, 33, 34 when it comes to the World Cup in 2026. John Stones as well, you know. There's so many players. Kyle Walker. I mean, I could go on.
Yeah, but for every player you're saying there, you've got your Bellinghams, your Sakas, your Fodens, who are all still going to be around.
And there's going to be other players that come through that are going to force their way into that squad.
4 years is a long time in football.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No,
we'll still be in League Two, probably.
League Two, that's optimistic. It'll be in the Conference North, South, whatever. Fucking
South.
one they are.
No, I do truly believe I'm not doubting England because England could bring in players. England could bring in players just like that. Then the cat's not impressed with my comments. Taking
Cat
over the
was
show.
feeding.
Yeah.
Cat's been fed.
He's looking at you, Fifey, now.
You saying I ain't?
Do continue.
No, I'm not doubting that England would be able to bring him because they've got such a good, so many players that could potentially step up. And do you know what? That Harry Kane role now, I don't think he will be at World Cup 2026.
No.
I don't.
Well,
He'll play in the Euros, and that'll probably be his swan song.
He might play. Yeah, and I think that'll be it for him.
Okay, well, we have gone on for 2 hours, so let's conclude with a double question for you all then.
Mm-hmm.
And that question is from here. We're presuming it's going to be Argentina-France final, I imagine. But with this World Cup, it's just fucking impossible to. I'm fully on board Team Morocco at this stage.
Oh yeah.
Come on,
today Morocco. I am Moroccan.
Woody's saying there got to be some Irish players we can poach. But yeah, double vote then, and it is that the question simply is who wins the World Cup, and from this point, do we see Southgate leading England into the Euros? Let's start with Kieran.
Croatia win the World Cup, and Southgate leading into the Euros. He's got a contract until then. I can't see the FA sacking him because I don't know really how you can. We've met a bit of expectations over the last 3 tournaments. How I don't think he could be sacked, whether he decides it's time or not. But I think he'll be determined to give it one more shot to try and get a major trophy and be that guy.
Okay, Nick.
I think France will win it. I think Croatia hopefully beat the Argies because they don't deserve to be where they are. They showed their true colours again. And
see the clip of the goalkeeper calling out Van Gaal.
Yeah, but he's always been a shithouse, hasn't he? Martinez, when he's played for Villa, he's the biggest shithouse out. Yeah, sorry. What was the other question? Oh yeah, Southgate. Yeah, I think he would lead us into the Euros without a doubt because they're still building stuff through the system. Okay. And one last thing I've got to say is I'm sorry, Joe. I've obviously been swearing too much tonight because she said she can't get used to me swearing. So yeah. I apologise, Joe. I'll try to behave better.
No, shut the fuck up, Nick. Rich?
I'd love to see Croatia do it. Just for Baudry. Yeah, but
yeah, of course, but
yeah, of course, everybody does. Yeah, but I would rather Modric win the World Cup over Messi all day long.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
Also, if Messi won it would end the fucking debate, wouldn't it? It'd be like, well, Ronaldo, where's he? Because he's carried Messi's carried his team through the World Cup. Well. What the washed up Ronaldo was trying to do.
Portugal have won the Euros though, so I don't know.
Yeah, but
Argentina
won the Copa America now.
It's the equivalent because they can't win the Euros.
What's harder though, the Copa America or the Euros?
You can only play from where you're from, can't you? He can't play. I'm sure if they were in the Euros, it'd be up there, but geographically, there's a problem. But if they've done a deal with us in the Falklands, he might have been able to.
Yeah.
God's sake. So you're saying Croatia, Rich? What about Southgate?
Do you know what? Do you know what? I'm actually surprised he hasn't already resigned.
Oh, wow.
He didn't want to have to pay for his own plane ticket back. He's worried. He knows what the FA are like. If he resigned too quickly, like, nah, fucking get your own plane back.
Gents, thank you very much for your time this evening. It has been entertaining as ever. Thank you as well to Steve Hell, who was on for the first hour or so. Some incredible insights from him. We will be back as usual on Friday to preview the weekend's games. But from the four of us, thank you very much for watching. If you're watching it back or you're listening via any of the podcasts, thank you for taking time out to do so. Let me do the bit for Craig. Whatever you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, give the likes.
TikTok, Instagram,
follow all the socials for content, and if you are listening back on podcast, please do leave the reviews and the stars and whatever else they ask for, because the higher you rate us, the more people can see and listen to us, and Woody might get famous. Yeah, well, Coke might sponsor us, and Woody might get famous enough that he's allowed to appear with a guest. But from the four of us, thank you very much for your time this evening. We've been Fools Rushing. We'll see you on Friday. Good night.
Cheers.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love.